On January 21st, 1950, a man died quietly in a London hospital. There were no crowds, no ceremonies, no sense that the 20th century had just lost one of the sharpest minds. Outside, winter continued as usual. Inside, George Orwell, born Eric Arthur Blair in 1903, took his final breath at the age of 46. His lungs ruined by tuberculosis. January suited Orwell. It was a month without softness, a month that exposed rather than comforted. That same quality ran through his life and his writing. Orwell grew up knowing what it meant to feel watched. As a schoolboy, he became painfully aware of class differences, how accent, money, and background decided who spoke confidently and who learned to stay quiet. This early sense of humiliation never left him. It later became the foundation of his political thinking. The idea that power often works silently, shaping behavior long before it uses force. In the early 1920s, Orwell joined the British Imperial Police in Burma. On paper, he was an officer of authority. In reality, he felt trapped inside a system he hated. He enforced laws he knew were unjust, not because he believed in them, but because the uniform demanded obedience. Years later, he would write about this experience in essays like Shooting an Elephant, showing how empire damages both the ruled and the ruler. The guilt he carried from Burma never faded. It hardened into distrust of authority, of obedience, and even of himself. After leaving Burma, Orwell did something unusual. He chose poverty. He lived among the homeless, worked exhausting jobs, and experienced hunger firsthand. These years became the basis of his first major book, Down and Out in Paris and London, 1933. What he learned was disturbing. Poverty does not only weaken the body, it shrinks the mind. People stop imagining change. Survival becomes the only language left. During these harsh winters, Orwell's health began to break down. Tuberculosis entered his lungs quietly and stayed. In 1936, Orwell went to fight in the Spanish Civil War. He believed in the cause. What he found instead was chaos, betrayal, and propaganda. Newspapers printed lies. Friends disappeared. Truth itself became dangerous. Orwell was shot in the throat and barely survived. This experience shattered any remaining faith he had in political purity. He later recorded it in Homage to Catalonia, 1938, a book that angered many because it refused to lie for ideology. By the 1940s, Orwell no longer trusted grand political promises. That distrust shaped his most famous works. In Animal Farm, 1945, he turned the Russian Revolution into a simple story about animals, showing how power corrupts language and memory. In 1984, 1949, written while he was seriously ill, he went further. The novel imagined a world of constant surveillance, controlled language, and manufactured truth. But Orwell was not predicting the future. He was extending patterns he had already seen. While writing 1984, Orwell lived in isolation, coughing blood, knowing he was running out of time. Doctors advised rest. He continued to write. The fear in the novel does not come from fantasy, but from recognition. The sense that these systems already existed, only less visible. When Orwell died in January 1950, he did not know how famous his work would become. Today, words like Big Brother, doublethink, and thought crime are part of everyday language. The irony is painful. Orwell warned against a world where truth could be rewritten, and his warnings are now often quoted without being taken seriously. January closes his story fittingly. It is a month that offers clarity without comfort. Orwell believed that telling the truth was a physical act, something that could damage the body. In the end, it did. But it also left behind books that continue to disturb, question, and refuse easy answers. Orwell did not write to give hope. He wrote to keep records. And sometimes that is the darkest task of all.